Okay, we are back for our number 4 in our series of the basics of drawing. Last week we did a sphere and we turned it into looking very 3D and very round. This week we're going to work on our gradient chart. Things. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the first one, that's right over here, and we are going to color this square in as best we can. And now you can get close to your tip because you're drawing detail, but you're still going to keep your pencil on its side so you get a little better, smoother look. Okay, we're not drawing like fine details like lines. We're just trying to draw this in here. You're going to push down pretty hard, and you're just going to go back in here, back and forth, keeping it as smooth as you possibly can and getting it as dark as you possibly can. If that means going over it twice, we'll do that. And we try to stay with the grain. So if our grain is going up and down, keep drawing up and down. I know that gets harder as you get closer to these edges, but you just kind of work it out. I think what I did with the sphere is I had you get on the edge and then pull up, and it gets you a pretty straight line all the way across. Okay, but we'll straighten it out even more. So here I can pull it down and pull it down. Just do this along with me, and we will both be finishing at the same time. Okay, so now grab your blender and let's try to smooth this out a bit. You can go against the grain this time because that way you're pushing this graphite back and forth on top of each other and it causes a better, smoother look. I only do this kind of thing if I'm in large areas because if you try to do this in small areas, it looks very uneven. Okay, so that is our dark. Well, it's our number 1 color, nice and dark. We're going to call this, now is when you can get out here. I'm going to get my pencil, my mechanical pencil. And on top of this, I'm going to write black. This is our black. Okay, then over here at this end, guess what I'm going to write? This is going to be the lightest, and our lightest is going to be white. So for white, to get as light as I possibly can, although even though this paper looks white, white is never really totally white. This is even, if I took little Donald Duck here and looked at him with the light even shining on it, it's never completely white. It always has a tad of gray in it. So this is going to stay white. Now we're going to go in the middle, and we're going to try to make this one halfway between this black and this white. So let's go over it first by not getting too dark. Let's go in here and make it less than that, okay? And we'll kind of fill it in. Now this is when you get to use your great skills of learning to go up and down with the side of your pencil very close together so there's no gaps. Don't draw like this and think that you're going to get something even out of it. You have to do it even now. So we're going to come in here, and as we get closer to this edge, we'll move in a little slower. I'm still holding my pencil back a ways so I don't push too hard. Okay, so, and I'm using my woodless graphite, which is a great product to use to do this kind of stuff. If you haven't picked one of these up yet, go get one. Okay, so here we go. Now that's pretty close to halfway between, but I don't know for sure. So what I'm going to do, just smooth it out a bit. I'll use my Cartesian, and I'm going to smooth it out now, okay? So I don't try to go in here and make it any darker, because this gives me a good place to kind of start from to get between these two colors for the next one. Okay, so I kind of smoothed that out. Now let's get over here. Let's try to get one in between this color and this color. So it's going to be a little darker than this, and I'll put it down first like this to kind of match that one, because I know that would be the same color as this. So since it needs to be darker than that, I could start there. And you don't want to make it this dark. That would be too dark. So let's just get in here and fill in our little square matching this one. Okay, so now we're going to take this, we're going to blend it out. And of course, it's going to match that one. See that? How it comes right up against there and stays even. But we don't want it that color, do we? We want it darker. So somewhere between these two colors is where we want to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of this one over here and kind of pull it in and pull it in and pull it in a little bit. Rub it across here, pull it in. See, now it's a little darker than this. Just kind of helps to get me there. And now I'm going to go over this with a second coat. Don't push too hard because you don't want it to match right over here. You just want it a little bit darker. We're going to do the same thing, applying a little bit of pressure so it's a little darker than this. We'll go back over this way, and we're getting there. We'll go here, and we'll do it again. A little bit darker than that. Oh, look at that, starting to look nice. A little bit darker. I think we've just about got it. Okay, so let's get up here and get this to all match. I'm doing these in little teeny little ovals in case it kind of makes everything a little more smooth. Okay, and I'll do the same thing here. Just keep adding my graphite. Then I'm going to get my tortilla out, and I'm going to smooth this out. There, that gives me a nice gradient in between. It's lighter than this one. Let's put this back so I don't, but darker than the other one. So I keep this nice and dark up against here. I can even go with that over the top of my pencil. So there, it looks nice and dark. Okay, now we've got to get this color. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over here by this white, and we're going to start really light. Okay, so it's just a teeny weeny bit darker than the white. All I'm doing is brushing my pencil lead across the surface of the paper very, very lightly, like I don't want to get hardly any graphite on it. Super light. It's even almost too light compared to this. You can almost get something in between. So that gets me started. I'm going to fill the whole place in, and I'm going to do what you guessed. I'm going to go over it with my burnishing stub or tortillon, whichever you have. So I'm getting it in there. Okay, let's grab my tortillon. And even here, I'm not going to push very hard because I have some graphite on this, so I don't want that, let that get on there too much. So I'm very lightly brushing across the surface. There we go. That's getting pretty close to being between those two. What a nice gradient I have going on here. If I compare this and this and this and this, I'm doing pretty good. I could go a little bit darker here. So this is when I can push a little bit harder. Ooh, there, that comes up nice. It's just getting a little bit darker. You can tell by this corner. Look at that. That's a nice gradient chart. So we've gone from our black all the way to our white. I could even get it to that color by taking this over the top of the gray that I just did and making it a little bit lighter. It just pulls off just a little bit, just enough of that graphite to make it a little lighter. And I kind of like that better. I can erase that. Okay. So what we call this basically right here is we call this a halftone. Because it's the halfway mark. And I won't give you the names for that. Nobody really cares that much. Okay. So we're going to work on drawing our sphere just as we did. Now here's the fun part about an apple. The apple has a little dent down in here like this. So we're going to take that part off. Okay. And then we're going to have right in here, it usually gets a little dent in it right here. And that's where we end up with a stem coming out of it right here. So we can give ourselves a stem. You can even take this part of the apple, make it a little closer to the edge, make it a little rounder on one side, whatever. Now we have an apple. Now we got to draw our apple as far as getting our gradients all. Let's put our apple on the table. Put it on the table right across here. Now remember how we had that bouncing backlight? So let's draw our arrow. Here's where our circle's going to go, and I have a little dot in there I'm going to have to erase. But here we have our light. It's hitting right there. Okay. So now if we go in here, the darkest part is on this side. But remember about that bounce back light? Like we could take this now, and we can pull this shadow in here like I showed you before, right at the edge of the light, right at the edge of the apple, I mean. And we can push hard, pull it out. Push hard, pull it out. And we can get that in there, and you'll see how much faster we draw this. I'm going to do this all along here. Okay, so we have our dark area right in here. And now we're going to do a little bit on this part because our light's shining down here. And again, we're going to have this have this be dark underneath here because we still have this little shadow happening here. And if I go across, it looks like my light kind of goes pretty much like this way. So we're going to have to tilt this slightly. It doesn't matter as much, but we want to make it realistic. We're going to kind of do that. Okay, so there's our lights. Now, remember I told you that edge? We're going to put it in afterwards this time. Right now. Remember before how we kept this edge and we drew it in later? Now we're not going to do that this time. Let's do this. Okay, so let's grab up your dark part. That's going to be very dark. And we're going to be close to this edge, but not on it. And we're going to go still back around. And then we'll create that little moon ending right here. And it'll come down and it'll end up right here. But this becomes easy to do. But if you're having a struggle with it, take your regular pencil and just draw this line. Keep going over it. Keep adding the graphite to it. Like, I would say I'm running out of graphite, so I'd come in here and I'd add a little bit more to this paper where it's black, and then I go back with this, take the darkest part of this, pick it up, and smooth it out, and it kind of gives you a little bit more on your paper to work with for a while. I just want to see sometimes how far I can go with this, but we can bring this, because you can just really draw with these blender pencils quite well. Okay, so now I'm putting it more, it's on its side, so I got more to work with here. Look at that. It's taking me all the way over to the white part. That is fantastic. I love that. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my paper over. I'm going to get the other side of this here apple, because I don't need it to be as dark on this side, because that's the side that the light is shining on. And I can pull it around this way over here again. There, I kept the white. Keep that white looking. Look at how fast we drew this apple. I'm going to bring it back. Blender stick. Smooth it out here. But then I'm going to bring it over here and try to blend it over to this side. So one side of this is light. We can draw in, define the tip a little bit. Like that. And you have got your apple. Let's see how we are doing on time. Oh, again, 21 minutes. Okay, we seem to be our standard. Our 15 minutes is turning into 21 almost every single time. And there's your apple.